Hello, everyone, and welcome to another WTIN Fireside Chat. I'm your host, Madeline Thomas, Head of Content here at the World Textile Information Network. Today, we have a very special guest, Laurent Bokerhut, co-founder and CEO of a really interesting company, PEFtrust. So PEFtrust provides product environmental assessments across the textile and apparel value chain and also helps companies to manage regulatory compliance, amongst other things. So without further ado, I want to welcome our guest, Laurent. Hi, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Madeleine. Thanks for having me here today.
No problem. So first of all, if we start with you just giving us kind of a broader overview of PEFtrust, the goals behind the company.
Yeah, sure. So, PEFtrust is a B2B SaaS platform for the textile, footwear, and accessory brands. What we do is that we help these brands measure the environmental performance of their products. Environmental performance, that means not only carbon footprint, but also the water consumption, the land use, and actually it's a total of 16 impacts that we help them measuring. And it's at product level. So we're speaking here of really what is the performance, the environmental performance of their product. And we call this the product environmental footprinting, or PEF. There are two goals behind this PEF story. The first one is really to comply with the regulation, because you may know that for brands, especially in Europe, this exercise is becoming mandatory. And the second goal is to address consumers' expectations. Consumers are more and more vigilant regarding green claims or environmental claims performed by the brands. So with our service, you can really substantiate these green claims. And we think that brands who succeed in doing this the right way, they sell better in the long run.
Mm. Okay, and where do you get this data from? And how do you ensure its reliability, validity, etc.?
Yeah, when we say data, we really have to distinguish three kinds of data we're working with. The first one is the specific product data. These are the materials the brand is using, the composition, the country of origin, etc., etc. It's everything that is directly related, specific to the product we have at hand. So this data we obtain directly from the brand or from their suppliers. The second type of data is what we call secondary data. This is the data we need to relate to the footprint, to the environmental footprint of the product. So this is basically 1 kilogram cotton equals X kilogram CO2, Y cubic meter water, etc., etc. So this we obtain from environmental databases, and more especially the environmental footprint EF 3.1 database. That is the most recent and the most comprehensive environmental database that we can find today. It took actually more than 5 years to put together. So it's very, very specific to the apparel and footwear industry.
Hmm.
And of course, last but not least, the third kind of data that we are manipulating is the benchmark data. That means when you have the score of your product, to what product, to what reference do you compare it? And for this data, we use the PEF methodology and the prescription of the European Union. It's good that you mentioned the question of data quality, because this is really one of our main differentiating factor. We are really, really vigilant with the quality of the data that we collect. And we not only give one score to our customers, but we give the score of the score, meaning how robust is the score we just calculated for you, how robust it is based on the quality of the underlying data.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that transparency. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it is. And I must say it's a feature that our customers like, because It also allows them at starting from one point. Usually when you start in this PEF project, you have only parcel data, sometimes limited to only your bill of material. But with that, we can already get a standard level score, eco score for your product. Of course, it's not going to be very specific to your case, but still, it's a starting point. And then from there, you can fetch more data. We can give you a list of the attributes that are necessary to progress on this core quality level.
Ah, interesting. And I've actually seen some of the data and the intricacies that you guys can go down to, in terms of the different processes involved and the different fiber compositions, etc. It's really detailed, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's really a cradle to grave a process from the fiber till the end of life. And our specificity is that at each step of this process, you can customize your product and your simulation. So it's a bit like the software Adobe, you can use it like most people do for very basic feature, very basic simulation, but you're also never stop learning it or refining your simulation. So you can really go down and very deep into the customization. Again, if you want to, you don't need it from the start, but if you want to, and usually our customers, they want to be able to do it in the future, then you
Mhm.
can.
Okay. And how easy is it to integrate the technology, and to use, I guess, as well? And how how is it being used by your customers? I know that you did a really interesting presentation at Performance Days with one of your customers, French outdoor brand. If you could kind of use that as a case study and talk to us about integrating the technology.
Yeah, sure. Um, there are really two ways to use the product. Either you're interested in eco-designing your product. So in this way, you're going to handpick maybe 5, 10 models and work on these ones to change raw material, change the supplier, change the country of origin. And then you can see the impact in real time on your footprint measurements. That's one way to use it. So it's an interactive way.
Mhm.
But there's the other way when you want to have your whole collection benchmarked and ready for the eco score. In this second way, we can integrate the platform to the information technology, to the IT system of the brand. Either if the brand is using an ERP or a product or a PLM, a product lifecycle management software, we can configure APIs so that our solution speaks with the solution of the customer, and data is basically pushed and exported back automatically. It needs some configuration at the beginning, but mainly it's a straightforward process, and usually we do that during a short period of setup, and then the system runs automatically. Today, as you mentioned, we've been working for this Lagoped brand, who had several hundreds of reference. But we're able to scale that to thousands or even tens of thousands of references, and that's really exciting because that's what we're doing at the moment with big firms in France, but not only in France, in Europe as well.
So, what are the benefits of utilizing this technology, both for the individual companies and then also the positive impacts that this could have on the industry more broadly? Implementing this type of technology.
Yeah, well, it's a broad question, but let's say that I see maybe three benefits. The first one is it's scalability. We just spoke about that. In the past, Brands were conducting LCA on 1 or 2 or 3 models, but it took a long time. It was quite expensive, and it was only a snapshot of one product at one time. Today, what we're doing is really Uberizing this process and making it accessible, continuous for brands with many different products, many different versions of this product, and on a continuous time scale. So this is a whole different dimension. And the second benefit is the compliance. That's actually important because regulation is coming in. It's now enforceable in France. I know Germany, Spain, and also the Netherlands are preparing to pass bills on these issues as well. So it's now very important for brand to be able to comply with this regulation with a properly formatted EcoScore. So that's the second benefit. And to me, the most important is the third one, and it's really where the revolution is. It's the comparability. By comparability, I mean, again, in the past, everyone had his own unit of measure. Some would say that carbon footprint was the most important. The other ones would say, no, it's the water consumption that is most important. And the third one would say, no, it's better to focus on the biodiversity, for example. And all of those three are true. You cannot choose between water consumption and carbon footprint or biodiversity. You need to comply with all of these. And that's the beauty behind the PEF model, is that it's a really holistic measurement of the environmental performance of one product. So it's kind of like an environmental cost, which is comparable, meaning that if we do the calculation or if someone else does it with the same method, we have consistent results, and we can start comparing with each other, benchmarking against each other, and it's really kicking off a virtuous loop where the products are going to follow a net zero pathway. You see, that's what it makes it possible.
Yeah. And I think it comes at a really good time as well, because, you know, as you said, with these regulations coming in increasingly, governments and organisations around the world are kind of under pressure to implement these, and brands have, you know, given these provided these claims and benchmarks for themselves that, you know, by 2030 we will reach this, etc. And they've made those promises, and now they're kind of thinking, oh, I actually have to look to implement those. And what can we do? So I think you guys are providing some really valuable information that will help them on that, as you say, that net zero journey. But what would you say are the current challenges with the technology and also the market?
Mm. Yeah, of course, there are challenges because this is quite recent.
Mm.
I think the biggest challenge we see is to build up awareness in the industry. Actually, people don't suspect that we can measure and be so specific on the footprint of a product. You know, we're very well educated with the corporate footprint, so the carbon footprint of a company. But in the textile and footwear industry, the corporate footprint is only a couple of percent of the overall footprint of that we have. So we really need to get down to the product level footprint, and this takes time to be perceived. So our job, our technical challenge, is to make this process more simple, more easily understandable right from the start. And this is not so easy to do, because actually behind the LCA that we are conducting, these are millions of parameters that you have to add and multiply together. So it's really a complicated algorithm. It's a complex machinery, but our biggest challenge is to make this machinery simple to use, readily understandable, and very, very accessible. So we're on this way, but that's the way we need to go forward.
Okay, that sounds interesting. And how can this technology aid the industry in being more transparent and eliminate a lot of the greenwashing that we're seeing at the moment?
Yeah. Well, we need to start by defining what is greenwashing.
Mhm.
And so it's basically, in short, it's making either false or incomplete allegations on your product environmental performance. Well, the PEF approach really eliminates uh, this risk since it is science-based and complete, exhaustive over the life cycle of the product. So if you use it well, you really can be confident on its power to substantiate and sustain your green claims. That's actually why the PEF is mentioned within the recent Green Claims Directive project that the European Parliament is actually examining as we speak. So the question really gets down to um, how do I qualify the data that I use to run this algorithm, run this calculation? So the method is proven, but how do I improve the quality of the data? Um, and for this, we have a lot of work going on at the moment with our customers, with some partners. I'm thinking of traceability solution, which we are partnering with to really bridge this end-to-end solution. So collect data, certify this data, and then use this data to power a PF compliant algorithm. And if you do that either by yourself or using a traceability solution plus our solution or a solution like us, then you can really measure precisely your product performance and communicate this performance the right way, being unbiased. At least
Mhm,
that's what I strongly believe.
mhm. But I think that's a really good point to finish on, Laurent. Do you have anything else to add to that before we finish?
Well, um, well, no, I would say that I'm really optimistic today, on our capacity, when I say our, I mean the industry's capacity to achieve the challenge of the net zero transition. Because I really see a lot of initiatives, a lot of ambition, and a lot of resources that are committed by the brands to achieve this challenge. So yeah, this makes me quite confident for our ability as a whole to bridge the gap.
Great, perfect. Thank you, Lauren. I love the passion in which you speak about that and also about the technology. And I think you made some really interesting points there about the need for that consistency and that ability to benchmark against each other in the industry, and it allows us to be able to hold each other accountable as well, which I think is really important. And the product for me, I think, gives that holistic view of that product footprint, so that we're not just getting kind of skewed or one-sided data around carbon
Mm.
emissions, because everybody's so driven to reach that net zero of emissions, and they might not be thinking about water usage or land usage, let's say. So I think that holistic view is a really important point. So we'll finish it there. So thank you so much for your time, Laurent, and thank you everybody for listening. If you want to know any more about PEFtrust, you can find the website in the bottom of this article. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Madeleine. It was a great opportunity to be here today. Thanks a lot to WTIN.